The rain came down in sheets, hammering the pavement outside the diner where I sat. Staring at the engagement ring, Emily had slid across the table before walking out of my life. Her words still burned. I'm in love with someone else. Caleb. I'm sorry. 3 years of planning a future together. Gone in a single sentence. And all I could do was clutch the ring. Its cold metal mocking my shattered dreams. I was 26. A graphic designer with a quiet life in Portland, Oregon. And Emily was supposed to be my forever. We'd met in college, bonded over late-night study sessions, and shared dreams of a cozy house with a dog and maybe a kid someday. But that night, as the neon glow of the diner flickered against the wet glass, I felt like the world had shifted beneath me. The man she loved, Nathan, was someone I'd never met. A mysterious figure who'd stolen her heart in a matter of months. I didn't know whether to hate him or pity myself. The bell above the diner door jingled, snapping me out of my thoughts. A man stepped in, shaking rain from his jacket, his sharp jawline and piercing green eyes catching the light. He scanned the room, then locked eyes with me. My stomach twisted, not because he was handsome, though he undeniably was, but because something about him felt familiar, like a puzzle piece I hadn't realized was missing. He approached my booth, his expression unreadable, and slid into the seat across from me without asking. You're Caleb, right? His voice was low, steady, but there was a tremor beneath it, like he was holding something back. I'm Nathan. I froze, the ring still in my hand. This was him, the man who'd upended my life. My first instinct was to lunge across the table, but his eyes held me in place, raw and unguarded, like he was carrying a weight as heavy as mine. What do you want? I managed, my voice rough. I need to talk to you about Emily, he said, leaning forward. And about me. The diner smelled of burnt coffee and grease, but all I could focus on was Nathan, sitting there like he belonged in my story. He wasn't what I'd expected. I'd pictured a smug, arrogant guy who'd swept in and stolen Emily without a second thought. Instead, he looked lost. His dark hair was damp, curling slightly at the edges, and his fingers fidgeted with the edge of a napkin, betraying a nervousness I hadn't anticipated. Why are you here? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. She already told me. She's in love with you. Congratulations. Nathan winced, and for a moment, I thought I saw guilt flicker across his face. It's not that simple, he said. Emily and I, we're not together. Not anymore. I blinked, the words not quite sinking in. What? She ended things with me tonight, too, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. She said she needed to find herself, that she couldn't be with either of us right now. I thought you deserved to know. The irony hit me like a punch. Emily had left me for him, and now she'd left him, too. Part of me wanted to laugh at the absurdity, but another part, a quieter, more dangerous part, felt a strange kinship with Nathan. We were both collateral damage in her search for something else. I leaned back, studying him, trying to figure out why he'd sought me out instead of licking his wounds in private. Why tell me this? I asked. Why not just move on? Nathan's eyes met mine, and for the first time, I noticed the depth in them, the way they seemed to carry a story he wasn't ready to tell. Because I know what it's like to lose someone you thought was your future, he said. And because I've seen you around, Caleb. At the gallery openings, the coffee shops, You're hard to miss. My heart stuttered. I'd never noticed him before, but the way he said it, like he'd been watching me from a distance, sent a shiver down my spine. I wasn't sure if it was anger or something else entirely. What are you saying? I asked, my voice low. He hesitated, then leaned closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper. I'm saying I didn't expect to feel this way about you. The rest of that night was a blur. Nathan and I talked for hours, the diner emptying out around us as the rain slowed to a drizzle. He told me about his life, how he'd grown up in a small town in Idaho, hiding who he was because his family wouldn't understand. He'd moved to Portland to escape, to find a place where he could be himself, but he'd never quite found it. Emily had been a bright spot, a fleeting connection, but it was clear now that she'd been a distraction from something deeper. I found myself opening up, too, telling him about the pressure I'd felt to be the perfect fiancé, the one who always had it together. I told him about the ring, how I'd saved up for months to buy it, how I'd imagined proposing under the stars at the coast. By the time the diner's lights dimmed, signaling closing time, I realized I wasn't just angry anymore. I was curious about Nathan, about the way his presence made my chest ache in a way I couldn't explain. We stepped outside into the cool night air, the city quiet except for the hum of distant traffic. Nathan shoved his hands in his pockets, glancing at me sideways. Can I see you again? He asked, his voice soft but steady. I should have said no. I should have walked away, gone home, and buried this whole mess in the past. But instead, I nodded. Yeah. Okay. Over the next few weeks, Nathan and I started meeting up first for coffee, then for walks through the city's parks, where the autumn leaves painted the ground in fiery hues. I told myself it was just friendship, a way to process what had happened with Emily. But every time Nathan laughed, or brushed my arm by accident, or looked at me with those piercing green eyes, I felt something shift inside me. Something I wasn't ready to name. It wasn't just the physical pull, though, that was there. Undeniable. In the way my pulse quickened when he stood too close. It was the way he listened. Really listened. When I talked about my fears of starting over. It was the way he shared his own vulnerabilities. Like how he'd spent years pretending to be someone he wasn't, afraid of what it meant to admit he was drawn to men. Our conversations grew deeper, more intimate. As October bled into November, we'd meet at a small bookstore cafe, tucked in a corner with steaming mugs of chai, talking about everything from our childhood dreams to the ache of rejection. Nathan had a way of making me feel seen, like he understood the parts of me I'd kept hidden even from Emily. I told him about the time I'd come out to my parents, how their silence had hurt more than words ever could. He nodded, his hand brushing mine on the table. And for a moment, I didn't pull away. One evening, we ended up at a quiet bar overlooking the Willamette River, the city lights reflecting on the water like scattered stars. Nathan was quieter than usual, his fingers tracing the rim of his glass. Caleb, he said finally, his voice thick with something unspoken. I need to be honest with you. I didn't just come to that diner to tell you about Emily. I came because I couldn't stop thinking about you. My breath caught. I'd felt it to the pull, the spark, but hearing him say it out loud made it real. Terrifyingly so. I'd never been with a man before, never let myself consider it. But Nathan was different. He wasn't just a rebound or a distraction. He was a mirror, reflecting parts of me I'd ignored for years. I wanted to run from it, but I also wanted to lean in, to see where this could go. I don't know what I'm doing, I admitted, my voice barely audible over the bar's low hum. It's new for me. He reached across the table, his hand covering mine, warm and steady. It's new for me, too, he said. But I know I don't want to lose this. Whatever it is. That night, we walked back to my apartment, the air crisp and heavy with the scent of fallen leaves. We didn't talk much, but the silence was comfortable, charged with possibility. When we reached my door, Nathan hesitated, then stepped closer, his hand brushing my cheek. His touch was gentle, but it sent a jolt through me, like a circuit completing. "Can I kiss you?" he asked, his voice soft but sure. I nodded, my heart pounding. His lips met mine, tentative at first, then deepening, and for the first time in months, I felt alive. Not just alive wanted. Seen. Whole. The kiss wasn't just a moment. It was a door opening, one I wasn't sure I was ready to walk through, but couldn't turn away from. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Nathan and I spent every spare moment together, exploring Portland's hidden gym-show-in-the-wall taco stands, secret hiking trails, a jazz club with music so soulful it felt like it was playing just for us. But it wasn't all easy. Doubt crept in, whispering questions I couldn't always answer. What did it mean that I'd never felt this way with Emily? Was I betraying who I thought I was? And then there was the fear of what people would say. Fear of losing the life I'd built. Fear that this was too good to last. Nathan had his own battles. He told me about the letters he'd written to his parents but never sent. The weight of their expectations still heavy on his shoulders. I spent so long trying to be the son they wanted, he said one night, lying beside me in my bed, the moonlight spilling through the window. But with you, I feel like I can finally be me. I wanted to believe him, to believe in us. But the world wasn't as kind as our stolen moments. Portland was progressive. Sure. But we still got looks when we held hands in public. Whispers that cut deeper than I'd expected. And then there was Emily. She'd started texting me again. Vague apologies and hints that she might want to talk. I didn't respond. But each message was a reminder of the life I'd lost. And it stirred up questions about whether I was ready for this new one. One chilly December evening, Nathan invited me to a gallery opening where his photography was being featured. His work was stunning black and white shots of abandoned buildings, each frame capturing a haunting beauty in decay. I saw him in those photos, the way he found light in broken places. At the end of the night, as we stood outside the gallery, snow flurries dusting his hair, he turned to me, his expression serious. "Caleb, I need to know where we're going with this," he said. "I'm falling for you, and it scares the hell out of me. But I need to know if you're in this, too." I wanted to say yes, to tell him he was everything I hadn't known I needed. But the words caught in my throat, tangled with fear and the weight of a past I hadn't fully let go. "I don't know," I said finally, hating how weak it sounded. "I want to be Nathan, but I'm still figuring myself out." His face fell, but he nodded, stepping back. "I get it," he said, "but I can't keep waiting for you to decide." That night, I lay awake, replaying his words, the hurt in his eyes. I'd lost Emily because she'd chosen someone else. But now I was the one choosing whether to hold on to the safety of who I'd been or to risk everything for who I could be. The next morning, I woke to a text from Emily, Can we meet? I miss you. My thumb hovered over the reply button, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. Her words felt like an echo from a life that no longer fit, like trying to wear a coat I'd outgrown. Instead, I called Nathan, my heart racing as the phone rang. He didn't pick up. I tried again that afternoon, then that evening, but his voicemail greeted me each time, a cold reminder of the distance I created. Days turned into weeks, and Nathan's absence carved a hollow space in my chest. I saw him once, from a distance, at a farmer's market, laughing with a friend. He looked lighter, like he'd found a way to move forward while I was still stuck, caught between who I was and who I wanted to be. I started therapy, something I'd always scoffed at, but the sessions forced me to face truths I'd buried. I wasn't just grieving Emily. I was grieving the version of myself I'd built for her, for my family, for the world. Nathan had seen the real me, and I'd pushed him away. One night, I found myself at the diner where we'd first met. The same booth, the same flickering neon. I pulled out my sketchbook, something I hadn't touched in months, and started drawing his eyes, his hands, the way he'd looked at me like I was enough. The act of drawing him felt like a confession, each line a step toward accepting what I'd been afraid to name. I was in love with him. I tracked him down at the gallery where he worked part-time. He was in the back, sorting prints, and when he saw me, his expression hardened, guarded. "Caleb," he said, his voice neutral. "What are you doing here?" "I messed up," I said, the words spilling out before I could overthink them. "I was scared, Nathan. Scared of what this means, of what I'd lose. But I'm more scared of losing you." He didn't move, didn't speak, just watched me with those green eyes that had always seen too much. I stepped closer, my hands trembling. "I'm not asking for promises," I said. "I'm just asking for a chance to figure this out together. I love you, Nathan. I think I have since that first night." For a moment, I thought he'd turn away, that I'd lost him for good. But then he closed the distance between us, his hand finding mine, his touch grounding me. "You hurt me," he said, his voice raw. "But I love you, too. And I'm tired of running from it." We kissed there, in the quiet of the gallery, surrounded by his photographs of broken things made beautiful. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for the first time, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. Spring came, and with it, a new rhythm. Nathan and I moved in together, a small apartment with a view of the city skyline. We fought sometimes about my hesitancy, his impatience, but we always found our way back to each other. I came out to my friends, my colleagues, and eventually my parents, whose silence hurt less this time because I had Nathan by my side. Emily sent one last message, wishing me well, and I wished her the same, grateful for the path her leaving had set me on. Our love wasn't a cure for everything. The world still had its sharp edges, disapproving glances, whispered slurs, but we built something stronger than the noise. We built a home, not just in our apartment, but in the quiet moments, cooking dinner together, laughing over bad movies, planning a future that was ours. Nathan's photography took off. His work featured in galleries across the country, and I started designing again, my art infused with a new kind of honesty. One evening, as we sat on our balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in pinks and golds, Nathan handed me a small box. Inside was a simple silver band, not an engagement ring, but a promise. For when you're ready, he said, his smile soft. I slipped it onto my finger, my heart full. I'm ready, I said, and meant it. Our story wasn't what I'd planned, but it was better. It was a reminder that sometimes the life you lose is the one you were never meant to live. And sometimes the love you find is the one that saves you.